Hey, Allison. Happy Friday. Um, let me see here. Make a couple of changes. Welcome, welcome. So we're gonna live stream, so don't feel like you need to turn on your video or your audio. But I will stop the live stream after we're done and into the Zoom also. I see you now. Okay. I'm working on learning how to live stream to different platforms. So bear with me. Good to see you. Okay. All right. We're going to see if this works here. All right. Welcome. Well, apologies for being sick this last week. I had to cancel yesterday. It was a little bit like dominoes in my family. So my son went down on Sunday, and then my daughter, and then me, and then my wife is now sick. So we're we're sort of in the soup of sickness right now and getting better. And Allison, if you can hear me and see me, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. And to trust that everything else is working as it should. All right, so welcome. It's really great to be here with you. And anybody else who's joining live, these are also going to be on replay within the sanctuary. So we'll have people jumping in. And as we get more regular with these, I think we'll have more of an audience. And it's intended for us to, for specifically this session, is meant to provide some specific guidance and principles to help with anxiety, but also, within the sanctuary within, we're looking at more of a spiritual approach to anxiety and what we need to change and shift to orient ourselves more, um, or orient and align ourselves more to spiritual truths that will help us to actually reconnect and heal our anxiety on the deepest level. So, welcome. It's great to be here. Apologies if my voice is a little quieter. I'm still recovering from all sorts of things, but I'm here and I'm very grateful to be here. So let us start with just a brief arrival. So just take a really brief moment to touch into your breath and simply let yourself settle into the here and now and where you are in your body. It's often difficult to slow down. But we're taking this time to simply be with ourselves without necessarily needing to change anything. So you can just connect with your breath for the time being to arrive. Feel your breath as you inhale and exhale, and feel your feet on the ground. Feel your chair supporting your weight. And I'll start with a teaching from Xing Xing here. This is a Zen Buddhist monk. And he says, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. A couple of other quotes. This is Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God. And one last one from Paramahansa Yogananda. The one who has found God within remains even-minded and cheerful under all conditions. So today we're talking about equanimity, this quality of equanimity. Somebody in the anxious personalities group had posted about this kind of struggle with the ups and downs of life. One day feeling okay and feeling good, and then the other day really swinging in the other direction and feeling depressed and anxious and having a really difficult time. And um, she was asking about what to do about that, or what that's actually about. So I thought it'd be a good idea for us to dive into this concept or this principle of equanimity, not as something abstract, but as something really tangible and real that can actually help us transform anxiety on a deeper level. So for those of us who are more identified with anxiety, have this, our personalities are more oriented around anxiety, um, and tend to overthink. We ruminate a lot, maybe kind of brace for judgment. You're sort of hyper vigilant about that. We can go into what if scenarios quite easily. Equanimity is really the key to liberation. It's a part of the soul's ability to really keep the mind from spinning and from going into the storm. And it is the part of us that can stay consistent and steady and calm in the fight or flight patterns of anxiety. We'll start with a definition: equanimity, and turn off my video to let my bandwidth catch up. So if I see myself getting stuck, I'll do that for a second. Just bear with me. Okay, so equanimity is the emotional balance in the midst of intensity and uncertainty. So from an emotional standpoint, it's about balance. From the heart standpoint, it's about not clinging or resisting. It's an open heart that doesn't cling or resist or protect itself. And from the belly center, it's the ability to not collapse under pressure. So there's a kind of base quality to it, like a groundedness, a stability to it. So the root of this word is equus and animus together. That's from the Latin root. It's even-mindedness, in other words. So one of the misunderstandings of equanimity is that we can interpret it as a kind of flatness, like this is a misinterpretation of a lot of Buddhist teachings too, of non-attachment, unattachment, detachment. That just means that you're not really engaged in life. No, it just means that we are alive and vital, but without the drama. So we're alive and vital without the drama. In other words, we are here and alive and engaged, but without the extra that we create on top of it. So you just think about this for us who have struggled with anxiety, who have had chronic anxiety for a long time. Just consider the possibility of touching into that. It's kind of like a medicine where we just take a little bit at a time and maybe start to feel what that would be like if you were in touch with this energy or this quality of presence that was just even, that wasn't ruffled or disturbed as much. So when anxiety flares, what happens? Our system gets hijacked, right? And from this particular vantage point that we're looking at it from, it gets hijacked by a lot of preference, opinion, value judgments, right? We say, I shouldn't be feeling this way. This better not happen. What if I mess up? So all of those are preferences of how we want the moment to be. We are rejecting what is actually here. And the quality of equanimity, this principle, is how can we stay in the present moment no matter what's happening? So there's a kind of energy or a quality of this is what is here and I can meet it. So that really changes a lot and confronts our anxiety full on. The anxiety says, I can't meet the moment. It's too much for me. I actually want the moment to be completely different. I want it to be a certain way, and I have to control that, right? So all of that is very um, ego driven, driven by fear and driven by control, driven by a lack of trust. So equanimity, as we deepen in it and cultivate it, we start to actually practice and live this kind of even mindedness that no matter what happens, there's still a part of us that is untouched or what's the word? Kind of unadulterated, unimpacted by whatever is happening around us. So at its core, this is what I tell a lot of my clients right away. At its core, anxiety is the refusal of the present moment. Just think about it. Just touch into your experiences with anxiety. A lot of it is, I don't want to be in this moment, and I'm afraid of the moments to come, right? And so if we translate that in the language of our nervous system, the nervous system is saying something in this moment and something fundamentally must be different, better, safer, or more certain in order for me to be okay. So it says, this isn't enough. I'm not okay. I have to fix this. It's another way of saying that the ego is so fixated on our preferences. So, what is the antidote to that? Is this quality that we can cultivate of equanimity, even mindedness. In other words, having no preference. Now, when we say no preference, I'm sure that will trigger a lot of stuff that will come up. Well, if I have no preferences, who am I going to be? I like this and that. I prefer this and that. This is actually what makes me who I am, is my preferences. And that is essentially a belief of the ego. is that it believes that who it is, who you actually are, is the sum of what you like and what you don't like, what you prefer, what you don't prefer, what that we are actually much deeper than that. Let it catch up for a minute. I'll just keep on going for a second as my video catches up. So, equanimity invites us back into presence. Equanimity is the quality that invites us back into presence. So instead of judging and instead of um, placing our opinion on the moment, equanimity says, you know what, I don't need to actually control this moment. I can stay with what is here. So it grounds us in the moment. It's the actual quality that is um, the capacity to bring us back to that. So if you think about anxiety, or in particular like panic attacks, or severe cases of anxiety instances when we have that, it's like a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. So there's lots going on. There's racing mind, tight chest, shallow breath. That probably sounds familiar for a lot of people. Now, if you are identified with being your emotions and your thoughts and your preferences, then you're going to spin with that storm. But if you are identified as, or you have some knowing that you are something more and something deeper than that, then you remain at the center of that storm and not whisked away by it. So, equanimity, in other words, is a quality of the soul itself. It's part of who we are. We have this natural, inherent capacity to simply be where we are and witness what is happening in us without being so affected by it. So, I was pretty laid up sick this last couple of days. I think it was Tuesday night where I just started puking. Um, and that's one of the most challenging parts, I think, of being alive. It's these moments where you're just barfing and, it's miserable. And it's a good practice um, of equanimity, you know. So practicing having no preference, even when you're sick, even if you're in physical pain, even when you can't get out of bed, even when there's a lot of anxiety going on, can we still maintain a sense of equanimity because it keeps us in touch with the soul and the soul's truth that it actually is not so impacted by all of what's going on. So when anxiety tightens and contracts, when we have equanimity, it actually helps us soften and relax. It doesn't deny what's happening. It doesn't argue with reality and that it should be something different. It simply gives us space. And that includes space where anxiety can do its thing. That's always the first thing that I tell people who come to me and are struggling with anxiety, because we so much want to get rid of the experience. And actually, that ends up making it worse. So when we're anxious, we tend to spiral. We go, all right, we have an anxious thought, we get into a fear cycle, we have a reaction to that. We judge that. We prefer not to have that. And we go into more fear, and then the cycle starts all over again. So equanimity is a way to interrupt that spiral by creating space. And in that space, something really amazing can start to happen. Our nervous system starts to really believe that it's okay. Even with all this stuff going on, lots of thoughts, um, body being uncomfortable, having nervousness, anxiety, constriction in the body, shortness of breath. With equanimity, all of that can happen and you can still be okay. And that little bit of okayness starts to grow as we practice this. So the breath deepens, we start to become more aware of the body. We have better capacity to come back and remember where we are, who we are. So it is not a bypass of our experience. And this is so the key for anybody who is struggling with anxiety. You cannot bypass it. I'm sorry. If there's a way for you to bypass it, I would show you the way. But there's no way to bypass anxiety. If you try to do that, it's going to make it worse. It's all about returning to the present moment, returning to ourselves, remembering as much as we can the truth of who we are ultimately. Um, and that's one of the things that we're going to get into more and more um, in both the sanctuary, but in anything that I'm doing, is really the spiritual aspect of this is so important because it's really the fundamental root of our any kind of anxiety that we're having. Because if we really feel loved, if we really feel that we are whole and that we are completely accepted and we completely accept ourselves, then anxiety doesn't really exist in that space. There's no way for that to really be there. So anxiety thrives though when we're disconnected from those truths, when we don't know it or that we've forgotten them. And part of the truth of what we're talking about there is equanimity, right? How can we develop the quality of equanimity so that we can remember the soul, remember the truth of who we are, the spiritual nature of our being. So this begins by meeting anxiety with um, a non-judgmental kind of awareness. I think it's a little hard to say kindness. We try to be neutral with it as much as possible. And I'll let my video catch up again. So when an anxious thought arises or you have an anxious feeling, an anxious symptom, you can simply say, oh, okay, anxiety is here. Can I be with just this as it is? Can I welcome the moment without preference? Without preference. We can very much easily say judgment, right? So anxiety and judgment always go hand in hand. So a couple of practices that we want to put into place in our daily life to make this change and to cultivate equanimity. There's a couple of things that we can do. Is one, just pause before reacting, pausing and noticing if there is preference or judgment happening in the moment. Most of the time, we're not even aware that the judgment is happening or the preference is happening. So we just want to pause and take a moment or two to ask the question, how am I wanting this moment to be different? How am I judging this moment? And maybe that's external circumstances, but certainly with anxiety, there's a lot of internal circumstances as well. We want to feel differently. We want to come across differently. We want to be a certain way. We want to be accepted. We want this person to, do this or that. So there's lots of things that we judge in the moment. And awareness of that judgment is really key for us to develop even the capacity to have equanimity, to cultivate equanimity. And then it's a practice then of letting go. Can we can we let go of the judgment? So how do we do that? All right, this is where we breathe, right? Bring our attention back to the breath. We breathe into the belly. So that's number one. And you can write these down too. So we have this. So number one is pause before before reacting. Notice, pause and notice what you're judging and what you're preferring. Number two is breathe into the moment. So bringing your attention back to the breath. If you have to do anything, we always come back to the breath because it helps us ground into the moment. Number three, we let go and drop the storyline. So letting go of judgments, it's not an easy thing, but it's a capacity that we develop. So in the sanctuary, in the 5-day mental training challenge that we have, one of the skills that we learn is letting go of our thoughts. So if you have an anxious thought or you have a strong judgment that has a lot of charge, what's going to happen is that you get sucked into it. There's a kind of stickiness to it. It pulls you in and you become it. So you become merged with it. Now, letting go of that requires a certain kind of mental muscle. It's the mental muscle of kind of opening the mind to relax, relaxing the body, relaxing your being, and actually letting it go. So when I was first learning how to do this, my teacher would just say, hey, just imagine yourself holding your fist, like you're holding the thought like this, you're holding the judgment and the preference like this. And just like you let your something go with your fist, it's the same kind of energy. So you just let the mind relax and let go of the judgment or the preference. You let the body relax and the nervous system relax the judgment itself. So that's number three. And number four is just to say yes to what is arising. So that's really where we start to be with what is here. So I'll repeat the steps again. Number one is pause and ask yourself what you're judging. Number two is come back to the breath. Number three is let go of the thoughts and the emotions. Number four is say yes to what's arising. Notice what I'm saying is not, when I'm saying letting go of the thoughts and emotions, I don't mean rejecting them or compartmentalizing them or shoving them into the closet somewhere. They can still be there, but we are relaxing our attachment to it. We're releasing the charge. So this quality of equanimity arises when we stop fighting our experience. And then over time, what the soul learns, what you learn, is that you don't have to fear your anxiety anymore. It's actually something that you can hold, that you can be with, that who you actually are is much deeper than this wave. You know, we're actually the ocean. We're not the turmoil that happens at the top of the sea. Okay, so um, let me see what else there is that I'd like to touch on. Okay. No, I think we can just go into a little practice here so you have some direct experience of this. So we'll do a little meditation practice here to get into this energy of equanimity. So just right now, we always practice when we can. So if you're here, if you're watching, if you're present, let's practice. Always is a good thing. So take a moment, you sit upright if you can. So whenever we're meditating, whenever we're returning to presence, an upright but relaxed posture is always beneficial. You can close your eyes if that feels good to you. If not, a soft downward gaze is fine. You can bring your attention to your breath. Just let yourself ground. And we'll just go through those steps that we just went through. So, number one, notice and ask, what are you judging in this moment, or what are you wanting to be different, or what kind of preferences do you have about this moment? And number two is when you notice that, come back to the breath. Feel the breath moving in and out of the body. And number three, see what it's like to just simply let that preference go. Let that judgment go. Relax the grip on the judgment or the preference itself. And number four, simply say yes to what is here right now in the present moment. We'll do that one more time. So, number one, just notice, how do you want this moment to be different? What preferences do you have? Number two, you just ground yourself, bring yourself back to the breath. Feel your body. Stay present in the body. Number three, see if you can let go. Release the charge, release the preference, let go of the thought. And number four, say yes to what is here. See if you can allow it. And just notice how that impacts your experience. What is it like to let go of the preference? And just stay in that space and see, okay, is there a little more distance from the preference or the judgment? And is there a little more intimacy or immediacy with the present moment as it is right now? So there's nothing to fix in other words, nothing to flee or to add on to. Okay. So if you're ready, you can open your eyes, and a couple of journaling exercises that you can contemplate in the next couple of days, week, is one, see what tends to pull you out of balance, what makes you reactive, what makes you feel like you've lost that sense of equanimity. Yeah. And then practice in those moments the steps that we went through. All right, so that's number one. And then number two is really, this is probably the more important thing, is when have you actually felt equanimity? So when do you actually know this to be true? You know, for some people, we have more difficulty when we go out in public and we're at a party or something like that, and we have social anxiety, but we're like really good with our kids' emotions or something like that. You know, we can always feel centered. That's not me, by the way. I'm the opposite. But but when do you feel like you have access to this energy of it's all going to be okay? We don't have to change anything, right? Have no preference of how you're going to show up or how this moment needs to be. Okay. And what we want to do, if you can, is come back to cultivating equanimity, right? This is a kind of consciousness development, sort of a development of our knowing and our awareness of equanimity as truth. So I'm just going to pause my video again for one more second. Just letting the video catch up. So we want to build, in other words, a base of equanimity. We want to have that be part of our arsenal of peace, of compassion, of acceptance. And what happens is that, okay, yes, of course, anxiety is going to come in, your life circumstances are going to happen. But what happens is that you'll learn, okay, once I get knocked out of my equanimity, how do I return to it? And the more you do that, the more you just stay in your base of equanimity and peace. So I always use this example. It's like riding a bike. When you first learn how to ride a bike, you will fall this way and you're going to fall that way. And you're going to fall this way, but not know it. And then all of a sudden you're on the ground, like you don't really not quite sure what happened. And then what happens over time as you learn how to balance is that you feel when you're off. You feel more quickly when you're going this way and you correct. And then you feel more quickly when you're going this way and then you correct. So it's the same thing here. It's like we're staying in this pocket of equanimity. And then we start to become more and more aware of when are we out of that? When do we get knocked out of this sense? When does our preference and our judgment and our sort of egoic thinking come in to take us out of that base? So it's just something to practice there. And that's an ongoing practice that I'm still practicing. But over time, you learn how to ride the bike. There's different levels to riding the bike, but you can learn how to ride the bike, meaning you can learn how to have inner balance. And when you have inner balance, then anxiety becomes not something that is so overwhelming and something that controls your life. It's not a thing anymore. All right, so that's it for the live stream. So I'm going to stop the live stream for anybody who's watching on live. It was great to be with you. Really happy to um, share this space and this time with you. For those of you who are on live at the Sanctuary Within, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. For those of you who are interested in that, simply just DM me. The Sanctuary Within is our paid community. There's access to, obviously access to me, but access to more teachings like this and curriculums and trainings. So hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and would love to hear from you if you have questions. All right. So give me 1 second.